Well, good morning, boys and girls. This is Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. Malcolm White with Carol Palmer. And Carol, it is good to see you this morning.
It's good to see you, Mal. We've had a big weekend, and we are whooped.
It's the weekend after Hal's St. Paddy's Parade and Festival. And Carol is a buckethead judge.
Indeed. I guess our anonymity is now broken.
These are our people that we're talking to.
Yep, these are our people.
And so we had a record crowd, huge event. Everything was everything. We're glad it's over. Now we can move on. But it was a fantastic weekend all over Jackson. Jill and Sweet Potato Queens had huge crowds down at the Westin. Our own Java Chapman was involved. He is
a buckethead judge. I'm going to blow his
Go ahead,
anonymity.
blow his anonymity.
And he had the most wonderful, I guess, a utensil. He had like an Olympic torch that he carried as a judge that bubbles came out of the top. I've got to run right out and get one.
Got to have it. Got to have it. Well, anyway, so that was last weekend, and we were up until 9 o'clock last night. We were removing debris from downtown, and, we'll work on that for next year. We used to be done by noon. If this tells you anything, we used to be done with the cleanup by noon, and it took us till 9 p.m. this year. So a lot of moving parts there. But, we got a new crew, new leadership team. My daughter Zeta Webb and Mary Sanders Kavicki and Lydia West and Amanda Wells and all of that team did a fabulous job. So anyway, upward and onward.
Onward.
There we
onward.
go.
I'm really excited because tomorrow is National Waffle Day.
Yeah,
Actually, it's International Waffle Day.
International Waffle Day. Do you often make waffles?
No, but I'm going to tomorrow. I'm a pancake person.
Right. We've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. At our house, it's waffles because the grandkids, they love waffles. In fact, we make them, Kara mostly mixes them up, and we make them and freeze them and put them up so that when the grandkids are over there, we don't have to make them every time because they want them, morning, noon, and night. So anyway, we make a lot of waffles.
You're not buying the little Eggo frozen waffles.
No.
You're making your own frozen waffles.
And
Who
we freeze
knew?
them. Yeah. Well, now
great
you know.
Yeah,
now
great
everyone
idea.
in Deep South Dining Land
Yes,
knows.
but at the Palmer House, it will be waffles tomorrow. And then we have National Spinach Day. That's kind of swinging from one pole to the other.
Man, we eat a lot of spinach at my house. I ate a huge spinach salad when I finally got home last night with cucumbers, tomato tomatoes, and it was perfect after a long day of cleaning up parade debris. There's nothing like a spinach salad to set a man straight and to lay the bed for a good night's sleep.
Yep. That tells the story right there why Malcolm is slender and
I'm Popeye the Sailor
muscular.
Man.
You are Popeye the Sailor, and I am the doughboy sitting watching basketball with my husband eating Nandy's candies. We're on the whole opposite end of the spectrum.
No, I participate in the latter as well. In fact, I fell asleep last night in my bed with my laptop on watching the basketball game and didn't know until I woke up this morning what the outcome was.
Of the Ole Miss game?
I was watching the Ole Miss game.
Well, since it started at 7 o'clock, you must have gone to bed really early.
What do you think?
It was fantastic.
What do you think?
Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. All right, so here's some upcoming things. March 31st, we will not be live. We will be celebrating Women's History Month with a show of past guests, all female. It'll be a gynarchy.
It will be, and we have had some fine women on the show.
We have. We've had some great. We've been here a long time in radio
Malcolm,
terms.
we have been here 5 years.
That's right, 5 years. But anyway, March 31st. Mark your calendars. Not live, no phone calls, but a reflection back, a looking back on some of the amazing female guests that we have in celebration of Women's History Month. On April 7th, Carol, you stumbled onto this gentleman. Tell us a little about the chuck wagon cooking.
Well, he's one of my, Jeffrey, I believe you say Mueller. It might be
Sounds
Miller,
right.
but he's one of my favorites on cooking and coping. Not only is he a wonderful cook, and everything he posts, I go, gosh, I wish I had that on my plate tonight. But he is a chuck wagon cook, and he does events. You know, I kind of looked him up on the internet, and we got in touch and thought, wow, that would be great to talk about on the show, because he does a lot of one-pot cooking over an open fire, you know, big cast iron skillet. So that'll be something great to talk about, because, you know, we're a real camping, hunting, outdoor society.
Absolutely. And we're talking chuck wagon as in he has a chuck wagon and he hauls it to events and venues, and he cooks over an open fire. And this is going to be fun. This is April 7th. Jeffrey will be our guest, and we will.
Yes, and I want everybody to go ahead and look up what he does on cooking and coping. If you go to the cooking and coping site and then you put the little search bar, you can actually look for individual people who post. So it's kind of fun to know what people are doing out there.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Malcolm, March 28th, you're being honored by the Mississippi Humanities Festival.
Humanities Council. The Mississippi Humanities Council.
I'm getting all my festivals.
Festival Council. Yes, this Friday night at the two museums. It's the annual Mississippi Humanities Council Awards program, and I am receiving the Cora Norman Lifetime Achievement Award, which means what? That I'm through achieving things? I hope not.
No.
But that's this Friday night at the two museums, and I'm really honored. I knew Cora Norman, who was the
she
first
was head of the
first head of the
Humanities
Humanities
Festival.
Council. But anywho, thank you for mentioning that. Now, on April the 12th, we'll be through here with our calendar. On April 12th, Java and I, not Marissa. I thought Marissa was going.
I'll be there. He's just coming along to talk with you since Carol will be out.
Okay, I got it. So it'll be Team Deep South Dining featuring Malcolm and Java, and produced by Marissa Vaughn.
Absolutely.
But what we'll be doing is we'll be at the Sip and Savor event at the Max in Meridian on April the 12th. Public's invited, and we will be interviewing some of the enormous list of chefs who will be in attendance.
Absolutely. I can't wait. And tasting some wonderful things, hopefully, in the process.
So we'll get all sorts of sound bites and interviews with this impressive list of chefs.
I mean, it looks like about 100 chefs. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
You sent me a list, but unfortunately I didn't bring it with me. But there's a lot of people, a lot of whom have been on this show.
Yep.
One of which is our guest today, Chaz Lindsay will be there. And, of course, Enrica Williams will be there. And many, many more of our Deep South Dining friends. And we'll make new friends. And Java and I will do interviews, and we'll be playing those throughout the next year. We're very excited to be in Meridian at Sip and Savor on April 12th at the Max, and we hope to see you there. And if we don't see you there, you'll be hearing about some of our takeaways from that.
I mean, it really looks like they're setting this up to be just a major food event in Mississippi, a recurring major food event.
Much like the Jackson Food and Wine Festival, which was last weekend.
Right.
You and I have yet to attend. It's been sold out like 2 years in a row. But we eventually will have a presence in that, we hope.
You know, one thing I love about this Sip and Savor is the Max Museum, celebrates the art and culture of Mississippi. And as part of the museum, there is a culinary exhibition. And I love it, like with all of the artists that they have taken, that made the effort to honor our food artists, our culinary artists.
Absolutely. And I think they even have Robert St. John's what's it called, the little bake oven when he was a kid?
Yeah, Easy Bake Oven. I think they have Nick Wallace's skillet. They have something
Cat
from
Cora
Cat
has a
Cora.
bunch of stuff. Anywho, if you haven't been to the Max in Meridian, you owe yourself a visit. And they have many, many, many events like this Sip and Savor. Almost every weekend there's some sort of music, art, culture, exhibit, show. So,
you know who is the first on the list that Marissa sent us?
I do not.
Vish Bhatt from Oxford.
Vish is sort of the feature this year. He's kind of the star.
I was going
right?
to say I think he's the headlining chef.
Headlining, yes. So there you go.
Well, there you go. I mean, truly, still one of my favorite cookbooks was the cookbook he did 2 or 3 years ago called I Am From Here, and his restaurant Snack Bar in Oxford. Wow.
Yeah. What can
so
you say?
Cool.
And there should still be plenty of time to get tickets if you would like to attend Sip and Savor. You can go to sipandsavor.com. That's sip with 2 P's.
2 P's on sip. Mm-hmm. That's because that's how we spell MISSISSIPPI. Marissa, there was a phone. I saw that we had a guest, but my screen has gone away, so I don't know what's happening. But somebody, Joan, was it?
Yes, we're getting a phone call from Joan right now. I'll put her through.
Yeah, and I know Joan is with the International Food Festival, I believe, at Mississippi State. But either way, I think we've had Joan on before. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, Joan. You're on the air.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be part of your calendar. You were saying what's going on. And on April 5th in Starkville on the MSU campus, we are having the International Fiesta. And a bunch of people and student groups and town people are making food from around the world. So it is our international event. And we have entertainment and children's activities and a parade of flags. And it's the most amazing event in Starkville, is what I think.
What?
So come join us. It goes from 11 until 3. Get there at 10:45 in front of Allen Hall, and you can carry one of our 125 flags from around the world and be part of the action.
And it goes on there on campus at the parade grounds or whatever that big green space is. Is that right?
It's called the Drill Field.
Drill Field.
Yes.
Yes.
Drill Field.
Yes.
Yep. So get there at 10:45 and carry a flag. And the prices for the food are set by each one of the booths, but they're very reasonable. And as I said, we have a stage with entertainment that goes on all day, and it's amazing costumes, amazing color displays, telling about the countries, and you can ask questions, and everybody's friendly and willing to tell you anything and everything about their country because they're proud of it and they want to share.
And again, when's the date?
It is April 5th, Saturday,
Okay.
April 5th, from 10:45 till 3.
All right, that's in Starkville on the Mississippi State University campus. I have marched across those grounds many times myself. Carol, what about you?
Indeed, I have.
But not to international foods. So this is great. I love this, that we have these festivals and gatherings and celebrations around the culture
Because
of food.
Mississippians love to eat.
Don't we? Don't we ever? Okay, so today we are so excited. We have Chef Chaz Lindsay joining us. We're going to take a short break. Chaz is going to join us. He owns Pulito Italian restaurant in Osteria in Belhaven, in the Belhaven Town Center, and also Rowan's is his new restaurant across the street from Pulito. And he is quite the pasta maker. And Carol, you've been wanting to talk about pasta, and you've been sharing lots of cool pasta stories with us this week. So we're very excited about Chaz coming on. All right, we'll take a break. Be right back with more Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now, and become a member today, not tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Doesn't matter how big or small, but we prefer big. Thank you very much.
You don't want to miss the next Mississippi Antique Showcase coming to Oxford, Mississippi, May 2nd and 3rd.
For a $100 donation, you can get a showcase ticket, complimentary food, cocktails, and an on-site appraisal, or a chance to be on the show. Or for $60, you can just come and be part of the party. Call 1-844-874-6874, visit mpbonline.org, or scan the QR code on your screen.
We can't wait to see you in Oxford for the next Mississippi Antique Showcase.
The Mississippi legislative session is in the home stretch, and MPB's At Issue keeps you informed of the major developments.
What do Mississippians expect of their government?
It is a fascinating debate, and he and I could go back and forth for an hour on this.
But the truth is, we cannot just keep creating no accountability.
Join MPB's At Issue for interviews, analysis, and debate every Friday night at 6:30 on MPB Think Radio. Go to mpbonline.org/issue for podcasts and extended interviews. MPB, your stories, our mission.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. We are glad you're here. It is another beautiful Monday in the world in which we live. And we are so happy to be here and talk about pasta.
One of my favorite things to talk about.
We could talk about and eat pasta all day long. With us today, Chef Chaz Lindsay, who owns and operates Pulito Osteria in Belhaven Town Center, and has just recently opened a new joint. He can tell us all about that, called Rowan's across the street from Pulito. So this makes you an entrepreneur as well as a chef, Chaz.
That or hanging on by a thread.
First of all, we're grateful that you were here on your day off.
There are no days off anymore. No. Yeah, Malcolm knows that pretty well. No. But thank you all for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Man, we're glad to have you. We had you on early, right when you'd opened Pulito, I think.
You had me on right before we opened.
Before.
Yeah, so that's we just celebrated 2 years in January for Pulito.
Fantastic. So, we talk about you all the time on the radio, you know, here and there. And so we said, gosh, you know, we need to have him back on instead of just talking about you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be back, and I think this is a very fitting episode for it. So, yeah.
Well, I will say, I ran home yesterday during the chaos of the aftermath that is house St. Paddy's parade and all of the debris that has to be cleaned up afterwards. I took a little break, ran home, and on my way back on Jefferson Street, back up to the cleanup, I saw you dashing across the street from Rowan's to Pulito, and you had on your apron, and you were just like in a full tilt. I was like, there goes Chaz.
Yeah.
Did you have a good weekend, buddy?
Oh, yeah, we had a great weekend. You know, I've stopped looking at my steps on my phone, just crossing Manship Street so many times. But yeah, no, thank you all for starting that parade 42 years ago, because Rowan's had a record-grossing weekend. It was a lot of fun.
You kind of had your own little after party. I don't know. You had T-shirts. I was in there the week before, and you had like St. Paddy's T-shirts.
I got those made mostly for the staff. A few people ended up picking them up. We got koozies made. We did green beers.
Okay.
I'm really happy to have the 12 cases of Jameson out of the stairwell of my house. you know. But yeah, no, it's fun. Rowan's is it's kind of turned into just like the neighborhood dive bar,
Right.
you know. Well, it's brand new, so it's not really a dive yet, but it's getting there.
It's getting there. So, what were you thinking?
That I didn't want to do another fine dining restaurant. You know, I just wanted to be able to have something that was fun. I've got to kind of stay in a lane with Pulito because we are an Italian restaurant and we do, you know, it's higher end cuisine. You know, we make all the pasta in house. We change the menu almost weekly, depending on what we can get from the farm. You know, we're doing large format proteins like, you know, we're selling porterhouses anywhere from 37 to 54 ounces.
And whole fish occasionally, right?
Whole fish occasionally. Halibut season opens up this week. So,
my favorite.
Yeah, that should be arriving tomorrow. I've been on the list for that. So we get 30-pound fish in, break those down. That's exciting.
We'll have to have a halibut date, Carol.
Absolutely.
Yep, little osobuco
I see it coming.
on the menu.
See it coming.
Yeah, that pork ossobuco. That's going to be rotating off though because that's more of
This
a
winter.
winter time
Yeah,
dish.
yeah.
So, but no, yeah, the whole idea with Rowan's was really just to like have fun. You know, it's not nearly as serious. If I want to do, you know, I don't have to do a specific type of cuisine. You know, I mean, we do burgers and fried bologna sandwiches, but like this weekend we did corned beef sliders for
wow.
Paddy's Day Parade. I
Good
brought
idea.
my friend Gil out of retirement for that, and he made rye slider buns for us. But we had some corned beef left over, so we did. You know, y'all been to the Camellia Grill down in New Orleans?
Oh, yeah.
A few thousand times.
Yeah, so my favorite thing there is the Manhattan omelet. Which is
Yeah.
like corned beef hash and an omelet. So we did a Manhattan omelet with the leftover corned beef. And
Oh, that's great.
Put a stone ground mustard hollandaise over it. We just have fun. Whatever we feel like cooking, we can do it, you know?
And, you know, speaking of Rowan's, because it is just like Pulito, it is 2 blocks from my house. I walk over a lot.
See you in there for lunch quite often.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've eaten a lot of lunches in Rowan's. I think I've tried every one of your blue plates so far, and so far my favorite is Charles chicken, the fried chicken with the greens. So far,
Which are the Pulito greens.
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Right, which I really love. But talk a little bit about the chicken. You and I have sat there and talked about, you know, chicken and how long to brine it or not to brine it or marinate it, whatever you want to call it. And you have, what, a 2% salt brine that you use?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, 2% of the weight of the bird, salt, and then 0.5% sugar. And then we've got some other stuff that goes into it. I like to put a little acid in there too, so it denatures the protein, makes it a little bit more tender. So we use whole lemons. And then I use straight up Hidden Valley Ranch packet seasoning because that
Nothing
stuff
wrong with
That is fantastic.
that stuff is great. You know, like it's really good. And that's another great thing about Rowan's is that I get to use some of these
Stuff like Hidden Valley Ranch.
yeah, you know, and I mean, I'm going through a lot of Heinz 57 right now, you know.
I
like-
love Heinz 57.
I do too. It's the best, you know. I don't want to. If I go someplace and see that they're making their own ketchup, I start to question what's going on there, you know, because sometimes you just can't make it better, you know. But so we brine it 24 hours, and then I use cornstarch first, just straight cornstarch, and then buttermilk, a little Worcestershire hot sauce, and instead of like, you know, doing like flour, egg wash flour, we just dump the buttermilk and that creates like more of a slurry and let it sit in that for a little bit and then dump it into a seasoned flour. And we fry it real low, 300 degrees, so we can get a longer fry on it and it crisps it up more. But, you know, I call it GBD, golden brown and delicious.
Yeah.
You know, so it cooks it slower. And we leave it on the bone. That's crucial. Everything's better on the bone. So even the breast, we leave the breastplate on. And yeah, 300 degrees for 13 minutes, and then let it rest for a minute.
Now, you cook your burgers in a cast iron skillet. Is that,
Yes,
do I have
sir.
that right?
Yes, sir. So that's kind of a play on the Dyer's Burger out of Memphis.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, everybody's talking about smash burgers. And, you know, we do all of our cooking in cast iron at Pulito as well. I've always been a fan of it. And so it's a 5-ounce patty, so it's already a little bit smaller. But but you get that cast iron, and we start with just a little bit of oil at the beginning of the day, and then we cook it in that same burger grease throughout the entire day.
Oh.
We're not keeping it for 75 years or whatever Dyer's did, you know, but it just builds that flavor, and so it's almost kind of like you're cooking it in beef fat in the cast iron.
It kind of reminds me of the dough burger concept up in the Northeast Hills, where they most of them use lard, and they just sort of drench the burger patty over and over with the lard. And then when they remove it and then bring another one on.
Right.
Anyway, they're really good, and I'm glad to know what your technique is there. So that's Rowan's, and it's as you say, dive bar, great place to grab a sandwich. The bologna sandwich seems to be one of your signature sandwiches there. I know you had it at the Jackson Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah, we did just over 900 of those for Jackson Food and Wine.
I'm really interested in hearing about yours because that is my signature sandwich.
Ooh.
Not because it's good, just because I have to cook a lot of them. Bologna sandwiches and Spam sandwiches. I'm married to someone who goes, I mean, he flips on me. You know, every day he wants like fine cuisine, and then the next day he wants a fried egg sandwich, bologna sandwich, or a Spam sandwich. My head's spinning
He's from
all
Corinth.
the time.
He's from Corinth.
He's from Corinth.
Sounds like we're a lot alike, honestly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the fried bologna sandwich. So I get the bologna from this like kind of boutique butcher shop out of Atlanta called Frippers. We also have their hot dogs, which is a quarter-pound hot dog. We call it Frippers Ripper because we deep fry them. But the bologna is amazing. We also do that in the cast iron. And it's kind of a play. Like, I was thinking, like, how do we make this Mississippi, but, like, kind of cool and interesting? So I had my first ever fried bologna sandwich at the Shell station in Como, Mississippi. And then I was like, okay, it's kind of a Delta thing. And I was like, well, what else do I think about when I think of the Delta? Well, then and what do I put on it? I'm not just going to serve a bologna sandwich with mustard and, you know, charge someone $13 for it.
You've got to go beyond French's mustard.
And we do. So,
yeah.
Then you have, like, the chuck burger and rolling fork, you know, with the slaw and everything on it. But then I also always think about that, like, macerated iceberg salad at Doe's. You know, so
we call it wet salad.
Wet salad.
Yeah.
Well, so we
macerated wet.
Yeah, chef terms, you know. But no, so I kind of married all those together, and so fried bologna in the cast iron, and then we make an iceberg slaw with chopped dill pickles and sliced red onions, and then we use our burger sauce as the dressing for it.
Which is kind of a comeback thing.
Ish, yeah, sort of, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's mustard based. Yeah, you know.
I got to raise my game, Mal.
Well, you're getting some good pointers
here
on how to take that bologna to the next level.
I never thought this morning that's where we were going to go.
You came here to talk about pasta.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about pasta. Now we're talking about bologna sandwiches.
I am loving this.
Yeah, but and then we put, you know, keeping with Pulito, we put provolone picante on it because we got to put expensive cheese on it. Yeah.
So. Well, you got to get $13 for it. You got to make that thing dance.
Absolutely, and it does. It's you know, it's become talked about for sure.
Are you open today?
No, ma'am. Both places are closed on Monday.
No Mondays. You can't eat in the town center except maybe to get the chicken place. Is it open on Monday?
I don't believe they are. I don't think anything's.
Elvy's is closed. Polito's closed. Of course, they don't serve lunch anymore.
I'm going to just have to come back in town another day this week.
Come on. We'll go out and eat.
Yeah.
I can just cryovac all the products and I'll mail it to you. How about that? Pack it on ice.
Now, Chaz, you were born and raised in Belhaven, grew up in Belhaven, and
yes, sir.
And your mom is Virgie Lindsay, your dad is Chuck, or Charles. Your mom is currently serving on the city council in Jackson, represents our ward, and I'm very proud of her, and I told her the other day when we were unveiling the Hal White Way sign down at Hal and Mal's, which she helped facilitate, that I was very proud of her, and I appreciate her service. And I know being a public servant is no easy task in any town, any place. But she has served us well in that ward, and I'm very proud of her. And I know she's looking forward to having some.
She needs a rest.
Some time.
I mean, she deserves it.
She ran the Belhaven Association before that, and you grew up with all that going on in your world.
I mean, she is one of my hero women.
She's an amazing woman. I got very lucky in the mother department. That's
yeah,
for sure.
you did.
Yeah.
But, okay, so pick up, if you would, your journey when you begin to educate yourself and to move away and to learn what you have learned and now brought back home.
Well, yeah, so, I've told this story quite a few times now that people that are listening have probably heard it, some of them. But, I went to culinary school in upstate New York, Culinary Institute of America.
You're in Hyde Park.
Yes, ma'am. And then I moved to New York City. You learn how to make pasta in culinary school, but it's like 2 days maybe. And then I really got into pasta when I was working for Tom Colicchio at Colicchio & Sons. I started on the pasta station there.
Was that when you were in school or after school?
That was after school. That was when I was cutting my teeth.
Quite a first job.
It was, I'd worked at 11 Madison Park before that.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am. That was, number one.
Number one restaurant in the world, really.
Yeah. And that was super intense. But what's funny is Gabe Pacuzzi, who was here with Jackson Food and Wine this weekend from Portland, Oregon, he and I didn't realize it, but we missed each other at Colicchio & Sons by about a month. And so, but we were talking about our time there and how it was still a different time of cooking when, line cooks, everybody was out, to be chef and like really wanted to cut their teeth and really wanted to like push themselves as hard as they could, doubles every day, 6 days a week, just grinding and grinding. But I got promoted to sous chef at the tap room at Colicchio & Sons, and then an opportunity came up to move to Craft, which is Colicchio's flagship. And so I was the AM sous chef there, that was probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had in a kitchen because it was, it's right there in Gramercy, 19th and Broadway. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I was at the Union Square Green Market at 7 a.m. with a wheelbarrow, buying all the, produce and, fruits and vegetables that were coming to the market from the Hudson Valley and New Jersey and a little bit of Eastern Pennsylvania. And, so I'd have to be there at 7 a.m. I'd, run through the market. You'd like fight other sous chefs from other restaurants to be the first one to get stuff. And then I'd go back, we'd do 250 pounds of short rib a week. We'd start with veal stock on Monday, drop that, do Remy for our braises on Tuesday. Then we'd go into brown chicken stock Wednesday, and then blonde chicken stock for the weekend. Thursday, pull that off Friday. And then that was the cool thing about that job is that it was Monday through Friday. Unless I didn't make enough pasta, which happened a lot, I'd have to go in on Saturdays. But every day at noon, I would make gnocchi. Because that had been on the menu since day one at Kraft. It was Marco Canora's grandmother's recipe. Took me about a solid 6 weeks to really get the feel for it, making it every single day. There were a couple of days where I had to make it not once, but 2 times again because the chef wasn't very happy with it. But we would, I'd have to do that. And then in the afternoon, once the butcher was done with his day, I'd take over his table. And then that's when I would start rolling either agnolotti or what we always did fettuccine. I would do carmelle, which is another one. We would do raviolis, and all that's like fresh sheeted pasta, which is really hard to work with if you don't know what you're doing, especially if you're trying to do volume. And there were a lot of days that I would, I'd be there at 7 a.m. and wouldn't leave until the line cooks from dinner service were scrubbing down their stations after service. It was intense.
That's how one learns.
No.
Yeah. So you were doing big sheeted pastas. Mm-hmm. What type were you using? Hand roll machines or they were electric machines?
It's an electric machine. So like Imperia, that small hand crank one that you have up there, they make a couple of different mechanical ones that are, they have machines and they roll it through for you. But we would always do 00 flour, which is a finer flour, egg yolk, and then we put a little bit of olive oil in it. And then so basically what you do is we would put it into an industrial size Hobart mixer, like a 60 quart mixer. So you could really just beat it up really good and really form that gluten, so you weren't like A, giving yourself carpal tunnel, and B, wasting a lot of time. And then from there, you just start working it through that machine. You start on the thickest setting on the laminator, and then just keep rolling it down. And then, like, particularly for fettuccine, what you do is, so you make this big, long, 15-foot sheet of pasta, and then you have to fold it up again and then start back over, because you want to build that gluten, because you want to get that, like, al dente texture. And so, like, one of the things I say when you do that, if you take a little flour and you like gently dust it over the sheet, what you're looking for, they call it lingua di gatto, which is like cat's tongue of the cat, because it's kind of like rough, That's when you know you're getting to where you need to be, because what that does is it creates texture. It's going to give you that al dente texture, but then also it's going to create, it'll make the pasta, I'm trying to think of the right word, but essentially it'll hold the sauce better.
Right.
So the sauce will adhere to the pasta.
Yeah, adheres to it.
But for like stuffed pastas, like an agnolotti, you don't want to take it to that point, because it's just going to break, because it's too, like, you've developed too much gluten in it, and so it's not as you can't work with it as well and as long.
Right. Talking about the machine that you were using, I brought for our YouTube people today an Imperia pasta machine, just a home pasta machine. And the commercial pasta machines, like you're talking about, I mean, it's really the same thing. I mean, you're really doing the same thing you do in the bigger kitchens.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a smaller version of it. And when I owned the Everyday Gourmet for about 30 years, and during the early years of the Everyday Gourmet, the great Giuliano Buggiali would come. We would get him once every year or every other year, and he was very adamant about using that Imperia had the best cutters on it, and so we started carrying those way back when. But it's just such a joy to do at home. I mean, it's not that hard.
It's not. It's just a little more time consuming.
Well, and I know we probably can't get it to. I mean, sometimes I'm thinking about the cat's tongue, but just for our listeners and cooking and coping people out there, it's a lot of fun to roll out, to make a ravioli. I put a little ravioli cutter there.
Oh yeah,
this guy. All right, we got a caller on the phone. Kevin, our buddy from Charleston, South Carolina, is calling in, and he's got a comment about homemade pasta, which is kind of what we're talking about here. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, mostly blood pressure, but I'll make it. I couldn't resist commenting on homemade pasta, because it's such to new cooks, it's such an intimidating thing.
Right.
Everybody just automatically, every budding home cook always capitalizes on the importance of getting their sauce just right. And it kind of occurred to me a long time ago. I was like, wait a second, if I'm taking this much time to make this perfect bolognese, why am I putting trash noodles with it?
That's a great point.
Because I was raised in the cornfield with no stoplights in the middle of northern Ohio, so I thought I was raised thinking that good pasta sauce, came out of a jar.
Yeah.
And I was raised with a mother who strongly believed in breaking the spaghetti before you put it in the pot.
Many of us did.
Yeah, and then I got my first job working in a restaurant, playing the piano in a little mom and pop Italian restaurant. And between shifts, I got back into the kitchen, which was complete with an angry grandmother with a threatening rolling pin. And I learned so much. And then all of a sudden, I find this Marcato pasta roller in a thrift store for $10, and I was off. And then all of a sudden, you're like, hey, if I can make this, well then, now I can make ravioli. If I can do this, now I can do this. And it just builds. And, it even got to the point where my wife and I were teaching, kids in youth groups and stuff like that how to make pasta at home with their parents.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a fun thing.
It's just such an enriching experience. And to me, making pasta is one of the more intimate things you can do in a culinary situation, because you become so much more intimately familiar with your food when you have had buy-in on every portion of it. And especially for a family, and it's just such an amazing experience. So
absolutely, man. We appreciate you sharing that with us, and as always, we appreciate you tuning in and calling in and being a part of our conversation.
Well, to his point though, and I agree 100%. You know, that's like a lot of people say, as a chef, you're an artist, and I really don't feel that way. I mean, this is a craft, and you know, it's something that takes a long time to develop the skill and like be able to do it consistently. And you know, in my case, you need to be able to do it quickly. And it's a trade. You know, that's why you still have those pasta shops in Italy. You know, you go and get it by the pound, and they're doing it every single day. And it is not easy.
It is not easy. Now, you brought a tray of different pastas, and then you gifted Malcolm and me with some pasta today. So let's talk about the shapes and your favorite shapes and what you would use those for.
I actually don't have my favorite shape with me today, but
what is that?
Mine's rigatoni. I love rigatoni. We have a rigatoni die, and all of this pasta is extruded. So
is the rigatoni the wheel shape?
No, ma'am. That's like a short. You know, I mean, it varies in sizes. Little tubes.
Okay, right. Tubes. Yep.
Mm-hmm. But so I brought 6 different shapes with us today. All come from the extruder. Because we can do these in bulk. So we can do about 5, I think we can do 5 pounds in like 20 minutes. Wow. So, you know, it's a machine. We use semolina flour, which is durum wheat, finely ground durum wheat, because it's got a higher gluten content to it. So you can build a stronger shape. And they have different bronze dyes. And so you mix it up. It's just flour and semolina. You mix it up, and then what it does is it forces it through that die, extrudes it through the die, and you cut it to the shape that you want it. So like starting at, you know, we'll go clockwise around, which I gave to you all to take home, is Campanelle, which means little bells. And that's a really good one. I like that one probably next to rigatoni as well, because, you know, it's that little flute, and you can really get the sauce in there. Here's the sauce. If you're just doing like a pomodoro or something like that, that's a great shape. Yeah, okay. Really great shape. Next to that is parpadelle, which has been on the menu since day one. That's a long, flat noodle, and you know, it really clings to the sauce, and we use that for our bolognese. And that's been on the menu since day one, never coming off, never going to change. We make a lot of
and people
parpadelle.
go to the restaurant just for that dish.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
For the Caesar salad and the bolognese.
Caesar salad and bolognese. They pay my rent. That Caesar salad, man, I tell you what, I never thought that thing would take off the way it did. But, you know.
Well, let's get through the pasta, and then we're going to talk about that Caesar salad.
Next to that, that's Mafalda, which is that's named after Princess Mafalda from Naples. And it's they call it's named that because of like the ruffles that were on her dress. And so that one actually has a little bit of black pepper in it. And so we use that. We always use that for our vegetarian pasta, and we've changed it on the menu to just seasonal Mafalda. So whatever fresh vegetables we get in, it can change weekly. It can change nightly. And then in the bottom, well, we're going clockwise as I said. Bucatini. Mm-hmm. Bucatini is, you know, think of spaghetti but hollow, basically. And that's really nice. You know, a lot of people like to use that for, you know, carbonaras and stuff like that. That's a great pasta. It gives a little bit more texture. It's excellent. Then we have linguine, which is just a flat spaghetti, basically. Right. And then in the bottom is orecchiette, which means little ears. Yeah. And that one, the parpadelle, the linguine, and the orecchiette are never coming off the menu. And so one's the bolognese, the linguine is with garlic confit and jumbo lump crab, and a little bit of bottarga, which is a cured mullet roe that we shave over the top, and a lot of butter. And the orecchiette, we make a andouille, which is a fermented Calabrian sausage, and pancetta ragu with that, and garnish it with smoked ricotta salata and pistachios.
Wow.
It's almost lunchtime, Carol.
I love the names, and I love the story that you told. Is it Mafalda is the name of the...
Yes, Mafalda is the pasta. Mafalda was the princess.
Is the princess, but yeah, the ruffles. But so many of these shapes, and the names of the shapes come from, like, one of my favorite is Strangolapreti, which is what's pre-strangler.
Mm-hmm.
And
pre-scholar.
pre-strangler, and campanelle or little bells. So, getting into the history and the shapes is a lot of fun.
Oh, it's really cool. It's fascinating. I like cappelletti, and that one you can make with a laminated dough. They look like little soldiers' hats.
Really?
Soldatis.
So after New York, just to go back to your sort of timeline, you were off to Italy. And that must have been an exciting experience for you.
It was awesome. The way of life over there is just, people think we live slow in Mississippi. Go to rural Italy and see how slow you're living, But yeah, I lived on a farm there, which had a small restaurant that was open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so I cooked for that. But during the week, I worked on the farm, took care of some of the animals. They had a lot of racing horses, Arabians. That's where the money came from. They weren't making money off the garden, But yeah, we had seasonal gardens, and then they had about 250 olive trees, that's how I met them. Was in 2011. I took a little break from culinary school and went over there and WOOFing, World Organization of Organic Farmers.
Right.
Pay $25 and you get this directory of organic farms all over the world. And so I went and harvested olives for 6 weeks over there and just remained friends with them. And so when I burned out on New York City living, I moved to the apartment in the horse stable and worked on the farm for just under a year. Yeah, and learned
Great
a ton.
Training.
And then you came home, and let's talk about all the places you've worked here.
Yeah, so I came home and I worked at Table 100 right out of the gate. And that was great from a production standpoint, as far as like banquets, caterings, things like that. I mean, I think it's really important to know how to do that
stuff. And you worked for Bill Latham.
I did, absolutely.
I think one of the greats out of this part of the
we
world.
miss him so much.
I agree completely. We've got the Restaurant Hospitality Association golf tournament coming up on April 14th. That's in his honor this year, so I'll be excited to play in that. He was a great guy.
Bill was a friend, and I worked for him and with him, and he ran Oliver's before I did, back in the late 70s. Bill and Joey Mitchell were running it, and then Joey bought it, and Bill moved to Scrooge's, and I came in to run Oliver's. But anyway, I've known him a long time, and we truly miss him.
And he certainly left an imprint on restaurants in
and let's say
Mississippi.
that there's a scholarship that's been established at the University of Southern Mississippi in his name. So if anybody's interested in participating and honoring Bill Latham, that's available. Just go online and search for it. But anyway, so you leave Table 100.
And then Derek Emerson reached out to me. He had taken over Parlor Market downtown, and he wanted to do Italian. And I had just started Belhaven Pasta Company out of my apartment on Spangler Street in Belhaven Heights. I was selling to Manship, Lou's, Barrel House, a couple other people. I would sell at the farmer's market on Saturdays. And he reached out to me. He was like, I want to do Italian food. Come work for me, and I'll make you executive chef. And so that, spent about a year and a half there, and then moved over to El Paso, Texas, which you can see that influence on our brunch menu at Rowan's.
Right.
And then so when I was done in El Paso, I knew I didn't want to work for anybody in Jackson anymore. So it was time to open my own place, and that's when I was, everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? And I kind of made a name for myself with pasta.
Right.
And I was like, well, I've got to do pasta.
Yeah.
So, the Belhaven Town Center was just really getting going. I mean, Elvy's had been there, Campbell's had been there, but they opened this thing called the Laundry Market, which, the building we're in was the laundry facility for Baptist Hospital. And so when coming up with Pulito, I was like, all right, well, what are we going to name it? And so I kind of tried, really doing some brainstorming, and it was like, all right, laundry facility, sheets. They clean sheets there. We make sheets of pasta. Okay, I'll call it Sfoglio Pulito, which means clean sheets in Italian. But getting people to see or pronounce Sfolia here was going to be a little difficult. People still think we're a Mexican restaurant sometimes.
I was going to say, you should hear the pronunciations I hear about Pulito.
Pulito, really?
Oh yeah, we're either a Mexican restaurant or an oyster bar. They don't. They don't know which one.
It's a great name. It's a great name.
It is a great name.
But yeah, so that we opened in January of 23, and it's been going strong since.
Well, once again on this pasta, I mean, the way I heard about you was through Zeta and Webb. They were coming down to eat your pasta all the time down at Parlor Market.
That was their date night spot a lot.
And I thought you went over. I guess it was Webb who then went over to help with the Westin. You didn't do that, right?
We don't really talk about it.
You don't talk about it. Okay.
That was short-lived.
The moment.
The hotel life is not for me. Right.
Well, it was. I love the hotel life, but I wasn't the chef. I was the GM and assistant GM, but at the Bourbon Orleans. But anyway, so that was my first time to hear about you. I think they used to come down to. Let me ask you this: having worked at and basically run the kitchen at Parlor Market, and now that the Mayflower is back online in a grandiose way, do you think there's a future for that space there at Parlor Market for something, and what would it be?
I hope so. I mean, that space is gorgeous. That bar is beautiful. All the it's dark, the wood, rich tones, exposed brick walls. Like it's really beautiful. I don't know what that would be. I could see it being a high-end steakhouse or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Or I could see it being an Irish pub, and we just lost Finian's, so.
Hey, there you go. As I said, the chef is now an entrepreneur. Thanks so much, Chaz, for coming in, man. This has been delightful. Thank you, Carol, for coming up with the idea of let's talk about pasta. Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio, and we are funded by the generous contributions from folks like yourself. We thank you. Our show is produced by Marissa Vaughn. For our special guest, Chef Chaz Lindsay, and my co-host, Carol Palmer, I am Malcolm White, and we ask that you now stay tuned for Marshall Ramsey's program, Now You're Talking, followed by Southern Remedy at 11, and we ask that you join us every Monday and every Sunday at 9 a.m. for more Deep South Dining, heard right here on MPB Think Radio, and we thank you for joining us.